We went from a woman panicking on her flight because she saw an MFer on her plane to now we have aviation feeling like it's a Sopranos episode. What is going on here? Before we begin this video, as I stated previously, we are at battle with YouTube. YouTube is constantly deleting likes, comments, and shares, and subscribers. So please, comment as much as you like as much as you like, share this video as much as you like, because anything really does help at the end of the day, and it's greatly appreciated. But as I said in the beginning of the video, we have a little Godfather, Goodfellas, Sopranos thing going on in the aviation world. Now, I have been covering plane stories, plane incidents for quite some time on this channel. Since the beginning of 2023, since Tiffany G had her panic on her flight overseeing an MFer, I have been covering plane stories. I'm also known as Minutes of Planes. I was covering weird and bizarre plane stories to the point that people were calling me a fearmonger, a monger of fear. But as we progressed into 2024, people started to realize that something is not right in the aviation world. We had doors blowing off planes, tires falling off the plane, wings on the plane not being properly bolted down, engines catching on fire in mid-air. Now, we had a terrifying story that had come out where airliners, major airliner companies, were using fake parts on their planes, the most important parts on the plane, such as the engine and the turbine blades. They were being sold these very fake parts for very cheap. Big major airliners like American Airlines, United, and so forth were using these fake and much older parts on their planes. There is one company that has been under major scrutiny. There has been one company that has been the target of major backlash when it comes to the aviation world, and that one company would be Boeing. Almost all the disastrous news we are hearing in news and media involving planes connects back to Boeing. Well, there was a former employee who worked for Boeing for 32 years until his retirement in 2017. His name was Barnet. And why I'm saying was is because he was just recently found deceased, and they are labeling it that he took his own life. It is said the 62-year-old had ended his life from a self-inflicted wound on March 9th, and police are still investigating. Now, why are we talking about this? Why is this suspicious? People almost every day, sadly, take their own lives. Well, John Barnett has been known for raising concerns about the firm's, Boeing's, production standards. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant, making the 787 Dreamliner a state-of-the-art airliner used mainly on long-haul routes. Now, that story that just came out, that report that just came out about these major airliners buying these fake parts is very important here, because in 2019, John Barnett would tell the news that under pressure workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. So he found out way back in 2019 that these workers knew they were using substandard parts. They were using fake parts, older parts, meant for shorter travel planes on long-haul planes. These workers were probably going back to the company stating that these parts were not meant for these newer long-haul travel planes, and they were probably being told, you have to put them on there anyway, or you'll face termination. They were under pressure. That is pretty wild. When this story first broke out, this fake part story, we were blaming the maintenance workers. We were saying that this was DEI, these maintenance workers were not properly trained. They were putting just anything on these planes because they were not properly trained. But come to find out, these workers were pressured to put these substandard parts on these planes. This goes up the chain of command, and this goes down the rabbit hole. This goes very deep. John Barnett also uncovered a serious problem with oxygen systems, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. And we already saw an emergency take place where the door blew off on the plane. And these people need this oxygen mask. All these oxygen masks need to work in case of an emergency. He also states that when he started to work in South Carolina, he became concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something that Boeing has denied. Now, we can easily believe John Barnett in this case, because with our own eyeballs, which they want us to believe are called lie balls, we have been seeing nonstop issues with these planes, technical issues. Now, get this, he said in some cases, substandard parts had been removed from scrap bins and fitted to planes that were built to prevent delays on the production line. So this isn't an oversight. This isn't a misstep. This is sabotage at the highest level. Now, like I said, Boeing denied his assertions. However, a 2017 review by the United States regulator, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, did indeed uphold some of John Barnett's claims, his concerns. So this isn't a man who hated the company for no reason, who felt like he was underpaid or he wasn't respected at the company. No, this man had legit concerns and the FAA was backing him up. After 2017, even after he retired, he embarked on a long-running legal action against the company. He accused Boeing of denigrating his character and hampering his career because of the many issues he pointed out, charges rejected by Boeing. So going back to March 9th, John Barnett was found deceased, and it was determined due to a self-inflicted wound. More than likely, a gun was involved. People are very suspicious. They believe he was whacked John Gotti style. John Barnett told Boeing, "Now go home and get your effing shine box," and Boeing didn't like that. Now, here's the thing. This man, John Barnett, has been blowing the whistle at Boeing for quite some time now. They could have taken him out at any time they wanted to. When he was going to the FAA and telling the FAA his findings against Boeing, they could have popped him then. But there is one major difference between now and yesterday, and it involves one plane. That involves the Alaska Airlines flight in early January where the door blew off the flight. Not only are they being sued over $1 billion by the passengers, but oddly enough, on March 9th, the United States is said to open criminal inquiry into Boeing. The investigation is tied to an incident on an Alaska Airlines flight in early January. Boeing also told a Senate panel that it cannot find a record of the work done on the Alaska plane. Now, the federal agents that hang out in the comment section of my videos have recently contacted passengers, pilots, and attendants. Now, I'm only joking about that. I don't know if it's the same federal agents, but we do have federal agents on the move here. Boeing had been asked to produce any documentation it had related to the removal and reinstallation of the panel in a letter to Senator Maria Cantwell, who chairs the Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee. Boeing said it had conducted an extensive search, but could not find a record of the information being sought by the Senate. Boeing, like that scene in Casino, they were hiding all their paperwork. They were hiding all their names. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not accusing Boeing of anything. But Boeing also had a very serious whistleblower problem. In mafia terms, a rat. Now, as Boeing is facing this very serious criminal inquiry by the DOJ, John Barnett had been in Charleston for legal interviews linked to another case, the case against Boeing and their safety and quality standards. And it would be very, very damning to know that we have a whistleblower here that states that Boeing had been using fake and spare parts, and they have been hurrying up production and ignoring safety standards. And this would go back to that door that blew off that Alaska airline. This one man who is backed by the FAA is very, very damning to Boeing. The week prior to his passing, he gave a formal deposition in which he was questioned by Boeing's lawyers before being cross-examined by his own counsel. He had been due to undergo further questioning on Saturday. When he did not appear, inquiries were made at his hotel. He was subsequently found deceased in his truck in the hotel car park. Now again, I'm not saying anything. I am not insinuating anything, but anybody that has watched The Godfather, Casino, Goodfellas, The Sopranos knows the car is a very infamous spot to take somebody out. Now, speaking to the BBC, John Burnet's lawyer described his death as tragic. Now, why John Burnet's lawyer is speaking to the BBC is because John Barnet was releasing a lot of this information to the BBC. Now, Boeing would even make a statement. They would state that we are saddened by Mr. Barnet's passing and our thoughts are with his family and friends. Very short, very simple. Now, I'm really wondering if this is going to be another one of those incidents where a person who is going up against somebody big had about 3 or 4 gunshots in their head, and they are just going to finish this investigation with, well, he just took his own life. Even though he has about 3 or 4 gunshots in his head, he has a rope around his neck, he just took his own life. Extremely, extremely suspicious timing. This article even finishes with, his passing comes at a time when production standards at both Boeing and its key supplier, Spirit AeroSystems, are under intense scrutiny. This follows an incident in early January when an unused emergency exit door blew off a brand new Boeing 737 MAX shortly after takeoff from Portland International Airport. Even the way this article finishes is like this writer is saying something, but they don't want to say too much. We went from people simply seeing things on their flight, now we are dealing with Gangland. Crazy, crazy times in the aviation world. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.